Hey guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about The Ascent by Adam Plantinga. This is a adult suspenseful thriller and I really enjoyed this. So I have not heard too many people talk about this. I've actually only seen 2 reviews here on BookTube, and the reviews that I saw were from Nakia over at Nakia's Hideaway and Venus from Venus Escapes to Read. Both of them raved about this book, and because I trust their reviews, I went ahead and picked this up and I was not disappointed. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. So in The Ascent, we are following 2 main characters, the first one being Kurt Argento. So Argento is an ex-street cop from Detroit, and he is traveling to Missouri, and on his way through, he stops at this fair or little carnival, and he sees this young girl, and when I say young girl, she's grade school age, about to get assaulted by a man. And so Argento steps in because he's a good cop. He steps in and he beats the guy up and he drives away. Argento then gets stopped by a couple of other cops, and unfortunately for Argento, one of those cops is the older brother of the guy Argento beat up at this fair. They beat up Argento pretty badly. They give him some false charges and they send him to the worst prison in Missouri. It's this maximum security prison, and so that is where Argento is sent. In comes the other main character, Julie. Julie is a college grad student. She's the governor's daughter, and she is going to be touring the same prison that Argento was sent to for one of her classes. So the first day that Argento is in this prison, he has to get seen by the nurse because of his injuries when he was beat up. And so while he's being attended to by the nurse, they both notice that there are some inmates that are just walking around freely, and they both realize that's not supposed to happen. And so there is a little scuffle with Argento and a couple of those inmates. So then we have Julie. So Julie's in the middle of her tour. She is being shown around by, I want to say it was the assistant warden, and then her father forced her to take 2 security guards with her. So it's Julie, the security guards, and this other tour person. And so while they're in the middle of the tour, they see that inmates are walking around, and that's not supposed to happen. So at some point in the story, Julie and her group, Argento and the nurse get together, and they're all one big group. They realize very quickly that the security system inside the prison is no longer working, and so it's allowing all of the doors to open, and so the inmates are able to walk around freely. This is not a good situation for any of them. Throughout the story, the main purpose is we're watching these people try to survive the day in this prison with these inmates, but they're trying to get to the roof because, of course, they no longer have cell service. And so once they get on the roof, they plan to use their cell phone so they can call for help. I devoured this story. It was very fast paced. It was very suspenseful, very edge of your seat. And this is the first thriller that I've read in a long time that I actually feel was a thriller. So one of the first things that I'm gonna say that I really enjoyed about this are the characters. So the 2 main POVs come from Argento and Julie. And so as far as Argento goes, I mentioned it before, he's one of the good cops in the department that he worked in. He was one of the cops that actually did their job. So throughout the story, we kind of learn a little bit more about him and his time serving on the force. And we also learned that he's still dealing with the grief from losing his wife. I believe she died maybe from cancer, and so he's still dealing with that. And when he got arrested, they took his dog, and his dog was the only thing that he had left after his wife died. And so basically he kind of feels like he just has nothing else to live for, but he really wants to help the group of people that he's with. Then we have Julie. So Julie, I mentioned, is the governor's daughter, and she doesn't like all the attention she gets from being the governor's daughter. So when the group finds out exactly who she is, they're even more protective of her and want to make sure that she doesn't get hurt. But she kind of takes it as people being a little overbearing and not realizing that she can take care of herself. Outside of those 2 main POVs throughout the story, we get these random POV chapters that I really enjoyed that came from from random people. So a couple of the chapters were from people within their group, and then a couple other chapters were from like random inmates that were in this prison. Another thing that I really liked about this story is the things that we learn about the prison itself. So it's not a good place to be. If you are somebody that has to go to prison in the state of Missouri, this is not the one that you would want to go to. It houses some of the worst criminals in the state. And so when these people are trying to get to the top floor, I think they have to go through like 6 or 7 floors. They learn from this assistant warden person what is actually on each of these floors. And they learn the higher you go, the worse these criminals are. There's like one floor that is the general population. There's another floor that houses like inmates that have mental illnesses. There's another floor that houses inmates from 2 rival gangs. And then at the top floor is the worst of the worst criminals that have committed some of the most horrendous crime. We just watch these characters as they are put in some of the worst situations, because not only are we seeing some really bad things happen to the characters, we're also seeing some really bad things happen to the inmates themselves. And so this book has a lot of trigger warnings. I would definitely check those out before you pick up this book. None of the trigger warnings actually bothered me. There were some really messed up scenes in this book, but I still don't feel like it was as bad as it could have been, but it still might be triggering for some. It was also mentioned in this book, and I'm sure that it is true for a lot of prisons here in the States, that this particular one that they're in is extremely understaffed. There's not enough security guards for the amount of inmates that they have. And so this is really apparent this particular day in the story, because they don't have a lot of protection from a lot of the security guards there. And a lot of the security guards that are in this story, they're a bunch of wimps. Instead of going out and trying to like protect themselves, to protect other people that might be in this prison, for example, like Julie, they're hiding in the closets. Now, I can understand, because I think I would be scared to death if I was ever in this situation. But I mean, if I'm a security guard or a cop or anything like that, I feel like you're supposed to protect other people and not just run and hide. But then again, I've never been in a situation like that, so I don't know what I would do. And so I like just how it just described the prison overall and the things that actually take place in the prison. One of the things that I thought was interesting about this story was the author is a cop, and I feel like you can definitely tell just because of how things were described, especially when you're reading from the POV of Argento. It actually felt like you were reading from somebody that knew what they were talking about in terms of what cops would do in certain situations and their thought processes, because from Argento's POV, we are seeing his thoughts behind every action that he does to try to protect these people. Again, I really enjoyed this. I cannot recommend this book enough, and I'm happy that I actually picked this up. I would like more people to read this so that more people can talk about it, but that is actually all that I have for you guys. If you have read this book, please let me know your thoughts down below, or if I have convinced you to pick it up, let me know that too. I will see you guys next time. Bye.